Tensions between Israel and Iran gave grains and oilseeds a jolt, but the rally didn't last. Despite bullish headlines and a pop in energy and soy, the bears still have the upper hand. So what's holding the bulls back? I'm Johanna Bota, and with us today to break it all down is StoneX's VP of Clearing and Execution Sales, Bertrand Oesterle. Welcome, Bertrand. Nice to have you with us again. Let's start with a big one. How is the Iran-Israel conflict affecting grains and oilseeds?
So as you rightly say, it's been the elephant in the room over the past week. So it's all started on Friday the 13th with Israel attacking Iran and hitting the Iranian missile targets, but also the nuclear program. So naturally, the energy markets reacted to the upside quite quickly. That provided some spillover support into grains just because of the biodiesel, biofuel connection. And as we went up, we had a look at our barometer, which we've been talking about for the past few weeks, to see if in grains and oilseeds the specs were starting to pay attention and panic or not. So we looked at September, December spread again in Paris wheat, because that's where we have the most shorts in our grains and oilseed market. And that spread, we had been telling you that it was -12, -10.5 over the past few weeks. Last Friday, it pushed up to -9.5. So it started to give a little bit of hope to some of the bulls. And then by Monday, we saw that Iran was potentially looking for mediation. The energy market, if I look at Brent, went over 78, back down to 72, currently 75.5. So it's still in motion. There's still a lot of headlines. And as we are today, Wednesday the 18th, just post 11:30, we're supposed to hear from the Supreme Leader from Iran imminently. And we've had more headlines stating that the US might come in to hit Iran as well. So it could continue, or it could come to an end quite abruptly. And also we've had the former Iranian economy ministry stating that maybe the Strait of Hormuz should be controlled in terms of passage of energy cargoes. So it's quite volatile in terms of headlines still. But when we look at our September, December Paris wheat barometer, we're back into the -12, -10.5 range that we had previously. So we had on Friday last week that little spike to -9.5. We're back to -11.5 currently. So it looks like the specs have had a little bit of a fright, but are weathering it quite nicely. So when we mention Iran for us in terms of grains and oilseeds, it's an indirect element that we need to pay attention to. And the intensity or the duration of the conflict is going to need to be monitored because it's going to determine whether the specs will cover more or not. And the indirect element is through fertilizers. So a lot of people don't realize that Iran is the world's 3rd exporter of urea, the 7th exporter of ammonia. If suddenly the Strait of Hormuz, which is at the bottom of the Persian Gulf, which is just about 90 kilometers wide, if that gets troubled, then it could have an impact on grains and oilseeds for the next crop in terms of fertilizer availability.
And therefore on our food prices. So last week we talked about the upcoming WASDE and the EPA imminent decision. So are there any updates there?
Yes, so the WASDE was a complete wash. There was hardly anything of interest in there. It was extremely quickly forgotten. But again, it was a disappointment for the bulls. We had mentioned over the past 2 weeks that the Chinese plains had been dry, that there had been some heat, and we were looking at whether or not the USDA would change figures. So I had told you that we didn't expect it to be for June, it might be later on. It's exactly what happened, and the USDA came even further into bearishness territory by adding 700,000 tons to the Chinese stocks, but did not change anything to the Chinese wheat output estimates. Therefore, nothing got fed into the world stock stocks in that sense.
Okay.
On the contrary, the China harvest is progressing pretty well. It's probably 80-85% harvested so far. Now, you mentioned the EPA. That was also on Friday the 13th, the second very big element that we had to pay attention to. So we had been waiting for an EPA decision for at least a month, saying it was imminent. Yes. It finally came out on Friday, and it came out in a very disorderly fashion. We had Bloomberg mentioning 5.61 billion gallons of mandate. Reuters was mentioning 7.12. There was a bit of confusion between the RINs number and the mandate. We think the mandate is about 4.45, which is above the 335 we had previously.
Yep.
So in any case, whether we look at the RINs number or the biofuel mandate, it doesn't make a difference to what happened. What happened is very simple. The funds piled into soybean oil. Soybean oil went limit up on Friday, extended limit up on Monday, took a breather a bit yesterday, Tuesday, and today, Wednesday, we're a touch up again. Now, what has been interesting is that it has had two effects on what we do in grains and oilseeds. The first one, it pushed the oilseed complex up. And we saw rapeseed go up as well. So very interestingly, November 25 went over the 500 marks, and it's been over the 500 marks on and off for the past 2 days. And if you remember, I was telling you over the past few weeks that it is an opportunity for farmers to sell rapeseed while they try to hold on to what they consider is a bad wheat price, especially with September being around the 198 to the 203 mark. So it has given farmers another opportunity to sell at a better price, to create short-term treasury to hold on to that bad wheat price. The other bit which was interesting is the soy meal effect. Exactly. So as the mandate is requiring soybean oil to be consumed, it creates some unwanted soybean meal. So we saw the July soybean meal go down to a recent low of 283.1 yesterday. This is something we've discussed with feed compounders a lot over the past few months, in the sense that in their mind, below 290 or close to 280, it's a price too good to be true, too good to miss historically. So we're seeing some feed compounder interest into soybean meal. But indirectly, what it also means, it comforts the bears by saying there's more competition from soybean meal to feed corn, to feed wheat, to feed barley, and therefore it provides more competition and more bearishness indirectly. We also had a...
anything on NOPA?
Yes, so we had the NOPA crush update this week, and it came in with a May 25 record of 192.8 million bushels for the month of May. Again, so if we look at the entire situation, we have an Israel-Iran situation, which is bullish. We have an EPA figure that came in bullish. We had a NOPA figure that's also bullish. And overall, we see a market that tries to go up and then fades away. So some of the bears have been quite smug, if I may put it that way, saying, here you go, your rally doesn't hold once again. So it's been a very tense, very difficult situation where we've got plenty of elements for rally, but the rally is not yet taking hold.
So then what do you think it's anchoring the bulls, and what should we be watching for going forward?
So the bears are still in control. They are short almost everything in grains and oilseeds apart from rapeseed and soybean oil. And as I said, the situation has not yet created a foothold for that rally to push them out. When we look at the SEP deck or the SEP position in Paris wheat and the open interest, we think that maybe 5,000 to 7,000 lots have been erased by the specs. So it's not that important just yet. Also, when we look at other things, the US crop conditions remain pretty good. They've worsened a tiny bit over the week. We've lost 2% in winter wheat conditions. We've lost 2% in soybean, but overall it's not that drastic. Then when we look at corn and soybean, the harvest in Brazil is still progressing. It's slow, 5 to 6%, but it's ahead of what is presumed to be an upcoming corn crop in the US that should be large. And that's also following a large Brazilian soy harvest with a good soy harvest coming in the US as well. So for the bears, nothing has changed from that point of view. And when we look at Europe, Germany has had some beneficial rain. The German cooperatives were telling us this morning that they've upped the German wheat output estimate to 21.5 million tons by 500,000, and the rapeseed to 2 million tons, so some 0.1 million ton more than they had before. So in that sense, actually, it's 3.9 million tons. So in that sense, there's a lot of elements that have comforted the bears. I mean, the elephant in the room remains. We still have to monitor Israel and Iran.
Yeah.
Now, going forward, what we're going to look at is some issues there and there. So there's been some dryness in Canada. So Western Canada has been dry. That could affect canola. Manitoba in Canada has been dry as well. It could affect wheat. Then we've had some news out of Ukraine. APK Inform has again cut its rapeseed estimate by 0.2 million tons. We've had some noise about a 10% export tax, which was ditched away this morning, so we can ignore that bit.
Okay.
And then in wheat, we also have had some Argentine excessive rains, which may limit the wheat area, which was expected to be a large area for a record crop, so it's taking a bit of a shine away from it. Yeah. And in France, we still talk of dryness issues in some areas. So overall, to try to conclude, we've got the Israel-Iran element, we've got the fertilizer element, we've got a little bit of weather, but for the moment, we need the bulls to see a rally that holds, and for the moment it's only been fading away. And lastly, we've seen some consumer reaction. So because of the uncertainty of the past week, we've seen Southern European feed compounders coming in to buy Paris wheat, for example, on Seb March. We've also seen some decent tenders. Algeria bought some 550,000 tons this week. Morocco's reported to have bought 180,000 tons. And we've seen regular tenders either in wheat or barley or corn from Algeria or Jordan, for example.
So, Bertrand, like we said earlier, the Supreme Leader of Iran will be giving a speech later. What do you think he may say? What's like the worst case scenario?
So as we have been talking, I can see on the headline blotter that he has actually just spoken, and his speech is very simple. He will never back down. So we continue on a conflict momentum for the time being.
Well, that's quite scary. Thank you, Bertrand. And thank you for watching. For more financial content like this, please like and subscribe to our channel.